attractive and be ready for Sunday's opening reception. Jacqueline McGrail will lead spring wildflower walks in Harrods Creek Park on Sunday, April 12 at 1 p.m. and again on Saturday, April 18 at 10 a.m. Jacqueline has led these walks for several years, and they are a lot of fun. I encourage folks to participate. Finally, the Sons of the American Revolution has donated a stone bench to the city in honor of our country's 250th birthday. The bench is in Little Hunting Creek Park, and we will dedicate it at 6:15 p.m. on the day of our next council meeting, Monday, April 20. I encourage members of the council to come early for the April meeting so that you can attend the dedication and can join me in thanking the SAR members for their support of Prospect. That concludes my report. So the next item on the agenda is presentation of the city's strategic plan. Dad?
Mayor, members of the council, and everyone, it's great to be in Prospect. I'm sure you would agree with that, right? And John and I are privileged to come before you tonight to present the final version of the strategic plan. There's something I've learned along the years that I've been doing this, and that is that if you talk to enough people, you don't have to do a lot of explaining when you get to the end. And so I promise you I'll be short, not over an hour. But seriously, I do want to just take a moment and thank so many people. I don't know how many Zoom meetings we were on and how many trips we made, but every single person that we met was critical and vital in being able to complete the plan. It's really important that we be able to see the full picture before we start writing a strategic plan. So I want to thank everyone for doing that and taking their time. I want to call your attention tonight to pages 6 and 7 of the strategic plan, because this is really the heart of what it's all about. One of the first things when I initially met with the mayor and Don, and we were talking about the future of the city, and Prospect is one of those cities that's kind of in a sweet spot. It is the quintessential small town America, and almost the perfect town that anybody would want to live in. And yet, the reason that it is like that is because of all the economic activity and all the stuff that's going on. And the trick is finding the balance to make sure that as you grow and prosper, you don't lose yourself in that. And we tried to remain true to that. And in looking out 10 years, what are the things that are going to be impacted and what are the things that you need to start addressing now? I think that's a pretty fair assessment, Mayor. And so for those, it's the economic and environmental sustainability, the efficient land use, facilitating these improvements that are coming to Highway 42, a 10-year road maintenance plan, modernizing messaging and communication, maintaining a positive relationship between city officials and Louisville Metro and Prospect, create greater density of commercial and residential, and balancing the growth between commercial and residential, and developing ways to become a weather resilient community, and then finding the middle ground for handling new growth and maintaining your identity. If you can do those things successfully over the next 10 years, you'll be in good shape. The second thing that I want to point out are the areas of focus. So we talk to people and ask their opinions and their advice and thoughts on growth and development, increased planning around Highway 42, management of city personnel, building community, creating a common community identifier. One of the things that I've learned in working around Louisville and Cincinnati, northern Kentucky, is that there are lots of small cities, but knowing when you pass from one into the other is kind of a trick. And so finding wayfinding signage and and identifiers so people immediately know we have crossed into Prospect, I think would serve the city well. Police and safety, and everybody just bragged about how safe they feel within the community, the job that you all have done, police department and all the first responders in keeping the community safe. One of the things that stands out to me when I drive into Prospect are the parks and the trails and the natural beauty, the green space that you have. And then the last area was sustainability. Now that you've got it, how do you keep it? And so I think that there's plenty of recommendations, and the last, I think it's 4 pages, are checklists. And my understanding is that some of those things have already been checked, and that's good news. That means that you're doing the plan and implementing it. And with that, I'm going to pause and take any questions that you might have, and I'll let Mayor Farnsley answer them. and then we'll be finished. Is there anything that you want to discuss with us tonight?
I will say, like the signage, I really love the idea of having a unifying sign, because like when you come in off of River Road from Kroger, there's a little sign on the fence there that says "Welcome to Prospect." It's like so little, I didn't even realize it at first, but it doesn't look like every other. I mean, it's just like it's a little bit of a hodgepodge. So I think that is a great idea to have some unifying. Like we just look at it. I mean, we have our our buttons and we have our logo, but people, it's just not everywhere. So yeah, I don't know. There's lots of things to do. So that would be exciting.
Yeah, we have actually Kathy Sauer, who's done so much graphic design work for us, is working on a design for wayfinding signs.
Oh, that would be good. And just to know when you enter Prospect, when you leave, because even when we were running for election, people didn't exactly know if they could even vote for us. Like, where is the city of Prospect? Do I live in the city or not, or what? So,
actually, that's true. I just got a phone call this week, and no, he didn't live in Prospect. He wanted to run for the city council.
You have a question?
Yeah. Did you all look at the impact of mentioning no names, the affordable housing incursion?
The property, yes.
Well, actually, there's 2.
Yes.
There's one over here called Prospect Cove, and that's supposedly how many people? It's a lot of people, 700 people.
Yeah.
And then up on the other side of the city, up past the Marathon Station, there's another one proposed, and that's 160 apartments. I don't know how many people that translates into, but presumably 2 or 3 times that. So that's a big incursion of additional people, and they're outside the city limits, but just by a matter of feet. I mean, it's right there. Do y'all look at that?
We did look at that, and given the present circumstances, we recommended that the city let that not only run its course, but to be proactive on the backside of that, rather than addressing it in a formal plan and putting anything in writing that might jeopardize the city in some way or create any kind of situation that you would not be comfortable with. We believe there's lots of things that can be done otherwise.
Yeah, I think that is obviously an important topic for all of us. I'm going to ask that we stop discussion of that at this point and not talk about it any further this evening. We can all talk among ourselves, and if we need to, we can call a special meeting for that purpose. But
yep.
It's a major topic by all means in Prospect.
Yeah, I want to be very careful.
Yeah.
But yes, the short answer to your question is yes. We talked about it quite a bit.
Okay. Any other questions for Tad or John? Thank you. We may follow up with you and ask for some more guidance as we move forward, but we sure do appreciate your efforts.
We would be glad to. It's been a privilege.
Actually, that was, in a way, what my question was. I like that you have things critical, important, and everything. But when I looked at the criticals, I think we could use some more help.
Yeah, we'll be in touch.
John, do you have anything you want to add? I want to make sure John is more than half the team. I can tell you that right now.
Okay.
and we really appreciate his help too. So thank you all so much.
Thank you. Appreciate you. Appreciate you. Okay, thanks again, Todd, Ed, and John. All right, next item on the agenda, financial reports. John?
Got the financial reports this morning, and I believe I emailed them to you this morning, unless it was yesterday. So I'm summarizing February's financials. We started off with basically $4 million in our investments. We had just over $100,000 in our checking. If we look at our restricted funds, the capital project fund now has a balance of $232,000 and change, and the restricted road aid fund is at $45,000 and change. We're still looking at budget lines closely. We're close on some, but we're not really at the point that we need an amended budget. We had expected to go to trial originally this month, and we're going to wait to see what those attorney fees were before we went to amend the budget, and so that's not going to happen this month. So we can roll on a little bit longer before we need to look at an amended budget, and we'll begin working on the new budget here this week. Is there any questions?
Any questions for John?
Legal would roll into the next fiscal year, wouldn't it?
Some.
Based on what we think.
Yeah, I think
Yes.
that's probably right.
Okay.
Correct.
Anything else? Thank you, John. Appreciate that report. Architectural Review Committee, Bob Jacob is here.
After we had the meetings with the developers back in January and all the plans that were put forth, the Architectural Review Committee decided that we should probably meet at least once every 3 months, even if we had no issues that we actually had to address. And this way we could be involved with the developments, which are going to be some pretty massive developments between the Publix and with the head property, and then possible other ones that may be coming online. So we wanted to get input from, conception to completion on these projects so that we can be kept abreast of what's going on. And if there were any headwinds that were going to show up, we could kind of proactively address those before issues became cast in stone. So we held our first meeting last week on the 9th. And this was just to bring ourselves up to date on any changes that had been occurred as far as the developments, either in the Publix and or the head property. The only issue that was brought up that we acted on was the fact, and it was brought up by Herb, that our current ordinances on commercial building will not permit the development for the head property to proceed on what we allow. So Herb suggested that we come back to council with a recommendation that our commercial building ordinances be reviewed so that building materials can be updated to contemporary design and the designs of the building. So our recommendation to council is to have someone take a look at those ordinances and then act on those so that when it does come time for the final approval, that they have the authority to build with what they like with the materials that we agree to. And we're not scheduled to meet again until June. We will meet as needed. If there are issues that needed to be addressed on an urgent basis, then we'll call any meetings as we need to address them promptly so that we can move forward and not hold anybody up. Any other questions? Anybody have any questions?
Any questions for Bob?
No, but do we need to vote if he's bringing that to us to review the ordinances, we could take a vote and say that's a good idea.
Yeah, I think it is a good idea, and I would encourage you to talk with Jim Randard. I'll put the two of you in touch.
Okay.
Because he's mentioned a special ordinance for the development of the head property.
Okay.
So he'd be a great resource.
Okay. I'll just coordinate with you.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
You may want to look at the land use code too.
Yes. Yeah.
And those make it dovetails in some spots.
And what
We
we're
adopted
doing,
metros, and then we have amendments added.
And what we're doing, I think, dovetails really well with the strategic plan.
Sure. Exactly.
So, okay.
Good. Thanks, Bob.
Thanks,
It's a great committee. Y'all do a great job. All right, Forestation Board. Do you have a report?
Well, Linda sent an email. I forgot to bring it out here.
That's all right. You need-
She wasn't feeling well. I can tell you that they're still looking for an arborist, and they've got a couple good candidates. I don't think there was much more than that going
No,
on.
I think that's
Yeah.
about it. Okay. Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee. Carolyn.
The Parks and Recreation Committee met last Monday, March 9th, and Sally Schneider chaired that meeting. Our most exciting news was the introduction of two new committee members, Christina Keenan and Becky Griffin. And both these ladies came to us expressing their desire to work in the parks. And so we invited them to attend last Monday's meeting. They came, they volunteered, and so we're excited to have them. We think they'll be a great addition, a great asset to our Parks Committee. They're bright and enthusiastic, and we needed some new blood, so that was a really good thing. Under Parks updates, a design firm has been selected for the Putney Pond Woodlands Park Boardwalk, and we're already beginning negotiations. The city's still waiting to hear about acceptance of our federal grant. So after the conclusion of my minutes, Councilman Gibson may want to add any other information that you might have or that you think is pertinent. But we have an ad hoc committee that Councilman Gibson is chairing, and the ball is rolling. So I think we're making some progress. Tina Bevan and Sophia Campo, who is our student volunteer on the committee, are working to organize a garlic mustard pull day. So as many of you know, garlic mustard is one of the invasives, especially prevalent in Harrods Creek Park. And when the park was first developed, the Harrods Creek Park was just covered in these plants. And so every year we try to remove as many as we can, and they always come back, but they're not nearly as many of them as there were in the beginning. And that has been a boon for our wildflowers. We have more and varied wildflowers now than we've had, I think, since the park was developed. The mayor has reported on our wildflower walks, and so I won't repeat that. David Holmes and I are working on the concerts. The mayor has already scheduled the Monarchs for this year, and we've both been in contact with a number of other groups. So we're hoping to have that wrapped up in the next few weeks so we can get out the promotion and let all our residents know about the concerts and Shakespeare in the Park, and it'll all be here starting next month, actually, with Shakespeare the last Sunday in April, I believe that's right, Mayor. Does that sound right to you?
For which one? I'm sorry.
Shakespeare in the Park,
Shakespeare is
April
April
22nd, 26th.
Sunday, April 26th.
Yeah.
At 1 o'clock at the pavilion.
Right. Okay. And then Sally Schneider reported that Kids Fest will not be held in June this year. She's looking at the possibility of a fall date. So she'll be working to decide where and how to do that. But that's always a great event if it's not a rain out, and that's been the problem last year. Other than that, there was no further business. Our next committee meeting will be Monday, April 13th at 5 p.m. Any questions or comments?
Don, do you want to add anything about the?
Sure.
Boardwalk.
The we put out in January. We put out a request for bid on the boardwalk, and that was for design and engineering and follow up on construction. 5 firms supplied put in a request. We called it down to 3 we wanted to talk to, in our construction committee, which is Carolyn and Tina and Herb and myself. Got it down to 2 that we wanted bid from, and so 2 of them. We could only go with 1 bid, and that was the top one. We've gotten that bid. They haven't been. They're selected as the top, but we're still in discussion based upon scope of service and the finance and the cost. Matter of fact, we have a meeting on that tomorrow. What we've tried to do here with the boardwalk, with the grant, until we get the $250,000 grant, we can't spend a penny on the boardwalk. And we're supposed to hear notice on that grant any day now, sometimes in March. So March is half over, and so we're looking forward to that. But what we decided to do is go ahead and get started and make a selection on the design and engineering. So once we got the money, we can get moving on it, and that's still the intent.
Thanks, Don. Appreciate all the work you've done on that. And Carolyn and Sally and Tina have been co-chairing Parks Committee and have done a great job. I was very pleased at the most recent meeting that Linda Wardell was in attendance and is going to stay active on the committee. This Thursday is her husband's visitation and memorial service. The visitation is at St. Matthew's Episcopal Church on Hubbard's Lane between 9:30 and 11, and the service will be at 11 o'clock at St. Matthew's Episcopal Church. So I'll be there, and if anybody else is there, I think it'd be nice if we could sit together during the service and have an opportunity to speak to Linda and her family members before the service. So thank you again, Carolyn, for that report. Next item on the agenda is the Jefferson County League of Cities.
Actually, I'd like to brag about Prospect first, and that is one of the other things that took place since our last meeting was the Linda Knox and Prospect starting what looks like it will be a county-wide group of tree cities, and the cities are already expanding. There were 22 people here at Linda Knox's thing, and those of you who've been in charge know that being in charge is not just sitting there and talking. Linda did an amazing job. One of her prime speakers ended up having emergency surgery right before the thing, and she got a pinch hitter. It was Cindy Sullivan, who's been active in that area now in this Jefferson County for years. Cindy Sullivan was fantastic. In fact, she generated some of the excitement in the room. The other thing poor Linda did was the weather was miserable. She had called in advance to get the coffee from Starbucks the day before, and they didn't have it ready. And so she got coffee for the whole thing. But I gave her full credit because by the end of that meeting, this group wanted to continue, and Woodland Hills is going to do the next meeting. They're talking about meeting quarterly, which I thought was, they were just talking about why Prospect looks good. And so there's other small cities that want to look as good as we do. Mm-hmm. Anyway, if you get a chance, tell Linda Knox she did a hell of a job. The next meeting for the Jefferson County League of Cities is this Thursday, and the speaker is the PVA. Part of the reason that's interesting and exciting, and I already sent some of the stuff out, is because we are one of the cities that have been reevaluated. Most of us got a postcard in the mail saying, we'll tell you how much you're going to pay in the next time around. And the process for appeal and everything else is a component of what they're going to be talking about at the general meeting. That's 7 o'clock, Linden City Hall. and this Thursday, and it promises to be good. The last meeting, which came after our meeting, was Kevin Kramer, who is now head of the National League of Cities, Metro Council member Kramer. Basically, what he talked about was how he got involved in the National League of Cities. And I thought that was interesting because most of us don't even begin to think about anything like that. And yet he's been an active member of that for a long time. And that's why they elected him. The other thing that took place is I think some of you are very aware that there has been legislation proposed in this session, which we're bringing to a close right now in Frankfurt. And as part of that, every year, the Kentucky League of Cities has us go down, council members, mayors, whatever, and talk to our representatives about things that are important to home rule cities. Well, our two representatives are Tishner and Ken Fleming. I've talked to Ken Fleming a number of times, like all of you have, so there was no point to me going and talking to him because I can call him whenever I want to. On the other hand, Tishner was interesting, and we have a person running for the state senate here at this council meeting, and I would just like to suggest that she not do what Tishner does, which is when you try to make an appointment, number one, you cannot phone call, period. And if you try to go in through the website, you get back a little email that says, we don't answer any emails, but we do read them. So anyway, when I got down there, I was with a mayor from another city. The representative of that city is Witten. Witten is the representative who has put out 2 bills, which I personally think would decimate home rule cities. They're HB, 613 and 617 and 618. Essentially what those bills do is they give us much less power in the zoning process. We can't specify parkings. We can't specify facade. And we can't specify them in a way that is less than what Prospect is. For example, we could not require more than 1 parking space for future developments that had certain density. I don't think that is anybody's right to tell us what to do. So anyway, went into Witten and because I feel strongly about this, we let her tell us what she was proposing in all of this. And I came away really a little bit unhappy with the whole process because they had been charged with coming up with something that would encourage the building of first homes. I don't think either of those bills begin to approach that, and I told her that. Because what they did was they took a bill that had been passed down in Texas, and they converted that to here. And I think that it may have worked in Texas, but it doesn't work in something like Prospect. Now, it was a very nice, very wonderful conversation, but I came away and I keep watching these bills, and so far they have not come out of committee, but I'm really glad. Anyway, I would strongly encourage all of you to do that next year if you get a chance. Don Gibson and I have gone down a couple of times, and it really, it's you're not going down with a specific thing to talk to your representative about. And so it's a more informal conversation than you'd have if you went down and said, I want this or I need this. Anyway, that's about it. The only other bill that is hanging out there is 607, and that's the omnibus bill for Jefferson County. And one component of that is interesting to us, the component being that we would be allowed to do varying tax rates for properties that we annex. In other words, I don't know if it'll pass that way, but the bottom line is it creates something that doesn't exist now.
Good. Well, thank you, Sandra. Any questions for Sandra?
They had hearings on 6, 17, and 18.
Yeah. I even went to part of one.
So they did not make it out of committee?
It was less formal than that at the
Oh.
time.
Okay. So they didn't vote.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Thanks, again, Senator. We appreciate your report and your efforts. The police report.
Yes, I'll be brief. Bringing up, we have an ongoing domestic investigation that we've been doing for quite a while. And the only reason I bring it up is it's not an arrestable thing that's happened just yet. We've had EPOs and different things taken out, but we're just crossing all the T's, dotting all the I's, and doing everything on our part. But it's taken a lot of man hours. We've submitted it to the county attorney, so we should have a resolution here before long. But it's just something that I thought I would bring up because it's a good example of yeah, we do have our duties during the day, but those investigations are very important and they're very advantageous to the city to do these things correct, to make sure that we don't ever get in a rough situation. But I want to commend Michael and our new detective for doing all that. So it's taken a lot of time for them to do that. The second thing, and I brought this up before, I think in the other meeting, the scam call where they impersonated one of our officers, let the person know that they had warrants, supposedly trying to gain financial information from them. We've not had another incident of that. We went ahead and took a report. They were just outside the city up here in Harrods Glen. We've not had another incident. We sent a crime alert out. We've got a really good response to that. So just FYI, so everybody knows, we've not had another incident. If we ever do, we've asked for people to definitely let us know so that we don't, that we could document that and work with that. We met with the neighborhood association presidents 2 weeks ago. That's the second time we've met with them, probably in about the last 6 months. It's a very productive meeting. If any of you all have any of the presidents, there's anything that they need to ask of the neighborhood, it's a real good process for us to be able to talk to them. So appreciate that. Last month, we had Late Watch, had 11 different patrol notices that we give out. I talk about this all the time because it's that important, of garages that were open. And I guess the word is getting out. Over the weekend, somebody from the landings called about somebody's garage being open. It's about 2 a.m. So that was good. Now, it was an elderly person who lived at the other house, but it is getting the neighbors talking to each other and watching. I mean, that person was obviously checking at 1 a.m. and saw one of the neighbors' garage open. So that is a positive. And doing the discipline of doing the same thing over and over again on patrol really does pay off. So just wanted to commend the guys for doing that. And that's it. That's our report.
Okay, thanks, Tony. Any
You got it.
questions for Tony? That's the end of our agenda. If there's no further business, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
Man. Oh.
We used to be real.